everyone, for another installment of the Integrative Mysticism podcast. We're sorry we've been kind of not consistent already right out the gate. It's been a very busy couple of weeks on both Rob's end and on my end. Rob was out of town. We both got sick in sequence. Something usually that's how it works with him and me. One thing happens to one and the other happens to the other. Rob proposed a very interesting space of exploration a little while back, and it's a very cool way to bridge the esoteric with a lot of, I guess you could say, the mentality that we hold here in this now, in this reality experience. And it's all about a way we can view limitation, or what we could maybe learn from limitation. Rob, what do you got for us?
We're here to talk about limitations. And limitation is not a problem. It's not a negative. It's not something to really worry about. It actually is inherent to coming to a place of acceptance, embracing and understanding your core limitless divine nature. So take everything, for example. You and I, we're all of and are everything. We are limitless beings at the fundamental level. We are of a unified field of consciousness that has willfully individuated into physical form in the third dimension in order to experience limitations from a clean slate, fresh perspective that allows us to actually get closer with our limitless divine side. Because if you are innately limitless, you're everything. You can't be something, though, if you're everything. In order to be something while being everything, you are required to embrace limitation. Limitation allows everything to become something. Your individuated aspect drew itself from the collective field of consciousness, still connected to it, not separated, just individuated, not separated. And you incarnated it in a bipedal hominid's body, in all its biological processes in the third dimension. With few exceptions, I'm not sure about Nico, we all came in tabula rasa, which is the clean slate, fresh start, everything's new, be a kid, have this experience, even the suffering, the whole 9 yards. Everything is born to us through a clean slate. This allows a limitless, infinite being to experience the joy of the piñata, or win the video game, or have an entire group of family members loving and hugging you and giving you gifts on your birthday. All those things are within the limited experience. In the limitless experience, what's a birthday? I mean, that's what is that? The concepts lose their concreteness when you get into limitlessness. Individuation is gone. It's all one. There's no more cold, there's no more warm, there's no more tall, there's no more small. It's all one. So what do? You assume this limited form on this one planet amongst billions that's a just gigantic form itself, just from a purely observational mass and everything perspective. You can fall into the trap of embracing an overly insignificant perspective of self, because it's not entirely inaccurate. You are insignificant, but you're also the most significant thing in the universe at the same time. You are divinity incarnate. Insignificance limitations, again, not negatives. Insignificance can be liberating in terms of your autonomy, okay? If you're the most significant thing on the planet, guess what? That's a lot of attention being placed upon you, most significant thing on the planet. But if you're one of 7 billion, the universe is your oyster. You're going to know the few people you know that you actually know, not your 1,000 Facebook friends that just is a number on the screen. The people you're actually directly, actively acquainted with. Beyond that, experience is yours for the taking. Choose your path, whatever it is. Create your world, whatever it is. You are subjectively creating reality always, and contributing to the objective shared reality experience we're all immersed in. If you think you're going to flap your arms right now and start taking off flying, well, no, limitation says welcome to gravity, okay? Gravity's holding this thing together. You can't flap your arms and fly off, or everything would just fall off the planet. Now, does that mean you can't construct something that could put you in the air through your imagination? Sure, absolutely. That's what happened. We created through the imaginal realm instruments to allow us to take off and fly. You're a limitless being, but you needed to work with the limitation in order to achieve that flying. And that contributed to the collective experience of everyone here. That imaginal creation of the plane allows all of us now to fly around the planet. So, what are you going to contribute? If you can come to a place where limitation is not conflated with obstruction, you will see the beauty in the limitation and see how it is the key to the limitless state. What were you going to say, Nico?
Well, I was gonna say, so there were a few things that I noticed. Without limitation, the opportunity to have a privatized reality experience wouldn't exist. And so it's sort of like, look, yes, limitation can feel inconvenient, and depending on, where you are in your progress through the conscious evolution process, limitation can feel very daunting and very oppressive. And yet, at the same time, if it weren't for that, it would be not as easily conceived to have a privatized reality experience. To be able to have your reality without necessarily sharing everything that you go through and what's going on with the rest of the collective, and sharing in the collective's experience. This opportunity to be able to have sovereignty over one's realm and one's reality based on not having to necessarily share in the collective bandwidth or the bandwidth of whatever collective you are a part of, which I find very interesting because on this journey, I've observed that, I mean, there are many camps, but two of the most vocal camps that I've noticed in the spiritual community, especially online, and I notice we're going through a bit of a transition point right now, especially as we came into September and October of 2021, that there was the camp of, yeah, the private, personal experience. I myself, maybe my monad, maybe my soul group, but that's it, as well as whomever resonates with it, and it's on a resonance to resonance, case by case basis kind of group or idea. And then you have over here this sort of no man, no woman is an island. We all must share the same experience. We only manifest through an amalgam, that the reality experience is a republic. We must vote. And so it's kind of interesting because the what you are saying it does support the former, right? The whole, like, look, this is a privatized reality experience. This is a privatized realm. Yes, we are here sharing this planet, and there are things we can choose to do with our brothers and sisters, and there are realities we can choose to co-create or choose to experience with one another. But it is actually almost in thanks to limitation that is not the default, which is a very interesting spin, because when I look at people, right, and I'm I do work in this community, I often do find that one of the most challenging things that can occur with those who do believe, like, no, the collective reality experience is a democratic republic, we must all form these we cannot manifest without having 30 to 300 other people all agreeing with us. um
Yeah, good luck trying to agree on the collective reality experience. Remember, the
oh
collective reality experience is of the infinite. So, trying to assign categories and labels and definite boxes and all those, it's going to fall short every time.
so affirming that one is actually not only permitted but by nature already entitled to a private reality experience, I think, is actually a very empowering message, though it may come contrary to a lot of the collective conditioning and a lot of the teachings that we have had, whether it's come through family or through politics or organized religion, this belief that we are dependent or have some kind of beholden nature to what others are going through and consciously or unconsciously creating or recreating for themselves. And I think one of the big things that people have to learn to do is decondition themselves from believing that because somebody else is having an experience, I must have that same experience myself.
Well, that
And
may be the most important endeavor, is the deconditioning, because, to be frank, one of the primary sources of this morphine of limitation personally in our lives into obstruction or
Mhm.
malignant limitation is, for the most part, internalized inputs from the projected dominator culture that basically the quote oligarchs unquote of our human societies impose upon us on the shared reality, and
Right.
compel us to adopt and internalize it to perpetuate it and enrich and empower the exploiters.
Well, I think that that has a lot to do as well with, okay, as individuals, right, as individual souls, as divine creator incarnate, we are each. That's where we do need to accept that we not only maybe do have a blessing in disguise with limitation, but we also have the permission to assert limitation. And again, it's you're not here to learn how to manifest. You're here to get your manifestations under control, under your control.
Exactly.
And
You're already manifesting all the time.
yeah, you're already manifesting all the time. I think that maybe one of the biggest challenges some people have is that, they kind of have a weird love affair with those kinds of systems, re-engaging it. It's incumbent upon us to kind of put a stop to where we kind of want negative limitations or toxic limitations to keep occurring. One of the biggest challenges I've kind of noticed, especially this last 6, 7 years, and it's got nothing to do with politics. I think politics just ended up kind of being
Oh,
the
and
arena.
I explicitly want to make, when I use words like oligarch and dominator, I'm not making political references. I'm
Yeah,
literally making spiritual references.
I totally understand what you're saying, because I was just seeing politics as kind of the arena for a lot of, let's just say, psychology on a collective level playing out. We're talking about this big shift in collective consciousness. I'm sorry, you're not going to make the jump if you're just going to go and recreate the same vicious cycles that were a part of the old reality in the first place. Why go
That's.
through
Can you say
this?
that one more time, Nico? I think we all need to hear that statement again.
You are not going to make the jump in a conscious evolution, level up, or ascension, or transition to a new paradigm, or come into true creator, divine, incarnate in the self, embodied, limitless creation, if you are just going to recreate the same vicious cycles that you did before. And that also means bringing your conditioning into the situation. I'm sorry, why are you talking about being enlightened and still trying to enforce old dysfunctional family dynamics from 60 years ago? Why are you saying that the only reason that these toxic imposed limitations don't work is because nobody's gave them a chance? Why are you recreating fundamentalist organized religion? Why are you recreating your passed down generational family trauma? Well, we have to face that in all kinds of different ways. And, there's a big get with it message going on spiritually right now. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't run into these circles and try to create new church. You can't come into these circles and look for a preacher. You can't look for a messiah. You can't come into there's your sacred limitation. The limits that you're dealing with are the limits you insist on bringing to the new paradigm. Stop doing it. you know um you got me off on a tangent here. Hopefully we
But
can bring
that
it
was a
back now.
necessary tangent because it highlights what's going. It really, really drives home the point of what's happening.
Hmm.
There, there is this strive to manifest a new and better creation. You can feel it. People want to make a better world. We don't want this old dominator just slave away to enrich some guy. That stuff, and acquiring stuff constantly. I mean,
Well, it does for people
there's
who
a
are hot for
yearning to break
narcissists.
out of that, but you nailed it on the head when you said that you can't take from this paradigm and create a new one. You're using you're using the existing old paradigm. By
You're taking
default, it's going to perpetuate the existing old paradigm if you use the old paradigm to create the new one.
right, you're taking carcinogens and trying to pass it off as health food.
Exactly. Yeah, it's no doubt. Here, just eat your McDonald's. I mean,
It's
that's what
been
we're doing as
blessed.
creators. We're dieting on McDonald's in our creation, and we're wondering why we don't feel so great. And if anyone seeks to kind of impose these things upon you, be it even if it's family members, you don't have to accept it. You can reject it.
No. I think that recognizing where a person may have their limitations with empathy is necessary, because I think that it's a good way to assist with finding a better way to bond, with a better way to connect. One of the things that I think is just gruesome and disgusting is that, the way a lot of the spiritual community kind of got bastardized um, this last decade was this sort of crazed sort of evangelical rush to proselytize and convert and create the copy and paste lexicon and almost demand affirmation of itself in order for they're not really practitioners, let's just say guests, to feel comfortable. And what I've observed is there are ways to connect to people by observing the limitations that they are at and first seeing, well, okay, what can you work with? Because that's what you're there to work with. If you can't work with any of it, just move on. You know,
Yeah, if you're not
um,
okay with connecting on what I consider an extremely mundane level,
mhm.
if you're not comfortable there, just don't go there.
Yeah,
I've resigned myself to the fact that a significant majority of the people in my immediate familial immediate circles completely asleep. We're not even talking awake and staying in bed. We're talking comatose. You're not waking this person up. You grab their arm, proverbial arm, and shake them. Uh, but I'm okay with that. I empathize with their position. They latch on to the mainstream paradigms and all the keeping up with the Joneses, all that nonsense. But hey, that's cute.
well,
Children, you're dealing with spiritually. Forget gray hairs, forget wrinkles, forget youthfulness.
yeah.
Are you able to ascertain someone's spiritual maturity?
Well, the thing is, I feel that there are some people that are just not supposed to wake up until we're further down the line. I actually believe that a lot of the histrionics and psychosis and psychological fallout of the last 10 years was due to a lot of people a lot of soul groups that were shaken awake that were also meant to wake up later. But here we are. I know that sounds really
Oh,
uh,
believe me, if you attempt
arrogant,
to
but
project and force an awakening, prepare for the proverbial shitstorm to come. Pardon my
yeah,
French.
yeah, we just went through it. We just went through it, and I think that was by design. If I want to get all conspiratorial, I think that if you want to throw off an awakening, let's wake up the least capable people to delegitimize, hamper, hinder, slow down, and make it as difficult as possible. I mean, it's an inevitability, but it's definitely, it definitely made things a lot less comfortable, less smooth of a ride. And
Yeah, because frankly, those are the people that want to maintain subordinate, boss, employee, taxpayer, consumer, producer, all that.
yeah,
They want to maintain and perpetuate that,
yeah,
and failure to comply is met with social stigmas and all the rest of the socially reinforced behavior that people put on you.
right.
Still on you to accept or reject it, but we understand that there can be pressure uh, going the other way. But in terms of wake, that's part of If you try to force an awakening, you're actually imposing limitations on yourself and other.
Right.
Don't force the awakening. They're beautiful and divine in their own ways. Okay, so they're just totally wrapped up in just the most mundane things you can imagine. The mundane is also part of the infinite too. So if other people around you just don't get it, they just don't. They're not gonna get it. It's okay.
Well, and I think that we can look at this as also another opportunity. Because first, pull the plank from your own eye. If you can't, if to you awake is defined by a certain vernacular, or you can't actually become fluent in other spiritual languages and other experiences, if you can't empathize with where another person is enough to understand them, you got work to do, honey. Or if your empathic, ability to sense everything is so out of control, what your experience overshadows everything else you could be communing with, you got work to do on yourself. You're not ready to do that job. So let the limitation maybe show you, well, what your limitations are too. And we all have them. I think that there's an opportunity even to look at, and this is something that took me a long time to learn, but it's something that I actually am grateful for. It's not even a learn, actually. It's a recover, something I had to recover from myself. Learning how to look at the limitations of others and allow myself to be endeared to that person because of the limitation that I'm witnessing. Not because I'm endeared to the limitation, but it helps endear me to the person, to help me understand them, to understand their nature, their process, what they're working through. I in a weird way, the limitation gives me visibility of the heart. I had a friend that it's 4, 5, 6 as I say this. I had a friend that I, for some reason, could not broach a certain topic of conversation with well. And every time, and we had tried, and I thought it was a perfectly harmless conversation, just more spiritual, explorative awesomeness, until it became very clear to me that there might actually be a very big difference in comfort with the subject matter that I wasn't picking up on. We and I think, Rob, I think you'll understand this. When you're really, you really feeling the vibe, you want to encourage and connect as much as possible. That's kind of how Rob and I are. It's like, oh my God, I love you so much. Oh, we resonate so much. It's like kids
Yeah.
wanting to share with each other everything. Like, hey, you're gonna come have a sleepover at my house. We're gonna play every video game I have on the bookshelf. I'm gonna show you all my magic cards, if we're staying at my house anyway, because I'm a geek. And and I just, but then I kind of realized in this conversation with this person, as we were approaching a spiritual topic, I was like, why can't we get there? Why do we always get derailed? Why does this always happen? And I had to stop. And I was like, I'm gushing. I'm gushing because I'm trying to show off. This is me trying to welcome this person into my world. This person did not have the same experience as me with this topic. This person was, I think, wounded by this area that I'm talking about. Because it's a little spooky, it's up there in the realm of magic and spiritual warfare and paranormal activity. And I had to check myself. I had this, revelation. I was like, I got so caught up in trying to win this person over as another best friend that I didn't even see that in his process, this is not a comfortable subject for him. Why am I trying to make him? I wasn't trying to make him anything, but It felt
Be
like
mindful of your projecting onto others.
yes,
That's the lesson I'm hearing from what
yeah,
you're describing.
yeah. And when I finally hit that, I stopped being frustrated. I stopped being frustrated with the conversation. I knew exactly. I was like, okay, this is not what this person wants to talk about right now. This is not something that we share the same experience with or the same intrigue with, this weird nerdy fascination that I have. It kind of hits him the other way, and he's got some bad experiences with this. He's probably had some scarier experiences or things that maybe left a mark on him. I need to let this endear me to him because one, that's indicative of the fact that, hey, he really is in this world. It just affected him differently, but he's here. We really are here together. And two, I need to understand that our inability to maybe connect on this topic in this area of our practices is not indicative of whether or not we have an ability to truly connect. I've got limitations too, right? We've all got limitations that we're working through. You would hope that somebody would look at your limitations and allow the limitation to afford them the opportunity to be more endeared to you. It's kind of like what Rob said, I think it was episode 1 or 2, which really stuck with me. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them.
That's my golden rule. That's the one I use. That's the one I project into the world. However, look, what it really boils down to. Did I still have you, Nico?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm not sure if I lost you or not. So what it boils down to, really, I'm going to just throw a crude analogy at you folks. Anyone who was alive in the late '80s, '90s, United States, middle class person, you probably had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo. Okay, the children of the '80s, '90s, we're the early adopters of the video game consoles.
Oh, I meant to
If
say.
you can recall, some of you, there was a device called the Game Genie, and the Game Genie would attach to the cartridges, and you would put into the console the game with this Game Genie. And what the Game Genie did was allow you to input codes at the start screen and allow you to basically cheat through the game. So you would never get killed. You could never run out of magic. Your character, you could go through the game. So what I realized, the games I played with the Game Genie and God mode on, I didn't really get that good at them. It's the games with the limitations, those MMOs, those games that say, "Hey, you gotta, this is what you're working with, deal with it,"
Right.
and you find yourself improving in the various aspects of the game because of the limitations imposed on you from the game. You get better at the game. We'll take that to the higher level. Okay, you become more aware, acquainted, and connected with your own infinite, limitless nature by your navigation process experience with the limited. If you're already everything, how can you know anything when you already are everything? How could you know something if you're already everything? How could you become something if you're already everything? How could an other exist if everything is everything? The limitations allow everything to be something. You're something. What do you choose to be? What do you choose to create? I'm something. What do I choose to create? What do I choose to contribute? Playing the game with a Game Genie, that's normal. That's default. That's our pure state. Taking the Game Genie off and going in, that's the limited state. Still infinite, still connected to all the creative potential of everything, but you're working through the limited lens that you willfully chose and were assigned.
Well, the
Okay,
limitation.
some people look at just the various skill sets of every human around you. I mean, there are people that can craft just masterpieces from mounds of dirt. There's people that can, like Nico, can articulate beyond the comprehension of most humans. You have everyone, as a part of everything, has their own unique expression through the limited form. What say you, Nico?
Well, I think that the first off, I did want to mention, I'm sorry I didn't send this to you because Rob and I do send each other synchronicities all the time. We talk, numbers and all of that. That night where I sent you the 2222 and the 7777, I wish I sent it to you, but it would have been midnight your time. Um, I actually, speaking of late 80s, early 90s, I went out to the store. I was buying a bunch of candles for, more spells. And I was actually in a place where I was like, these spells are really aggressive. Like, is this legit? And then then there was this blue SUV that parked next to me at the grocery store parking lot, and the license plate said Mega Man on it. And I thought, this is just perfect. So,
Does that mean there's going to be a Mega Man movie coming out? I'm
I,
really
I
hoping.
hope not. I hope
You
not.
hope not? You don't want a Mega Man movie?
People don't do a good job with these things. Maybe I'm just
Oh,
broken by the.
maybe it's just your expectations. I need to see a Mega Man movie.
All right. I've actually
Yes, the limitations of our, Hollywood movie producers may create a product that doesn't link up with our imagined creation. What we would imagine Mega Man would be in a movie.
I've been listening to a lot of modern remixes of a bunch of old Mega Man music. I'll send you some links after the show. Um, but the but going back, I think that the limitation is the opportunity to see your lesson. Things that come easy to us are not things that we've come to learn about. That we've because we all have our spiritual lessons, right? In the lives, for those of you who are part of Patreon,
It's
I've
an
talked about.
opportunity, Nico, and it's a limited opportunity.
It's
We're not
well,
going to be humans forever.
no, and so and yeah, if you want to put that limitation off to another incarnation, so be it. But why would you do that when you could have a level up and a progression right now, and reap the rewards of that right now if you need an incentive? you know um we all come into this life with these pre-life agreements that we've already made, right? And whether you want to say that's because you agreed to this with your, with spirit, source, God, we have got like what does, right? Source, God, the divine, you in perfection have in mind for you in this experience right now. What did you have in mind for you to go through, right? There's that priority, there's the oversoul soul family priority, and you kind of share that experience with over 100,000 people. And then there's your own higher self, multidimensional self priority for your unique experience of those agreements. And the limitations that you have in this life, are, the way I look at it, these are presentations, these are obstacle courses, tests and challenges that allow you to transcend varying degrees of limitations in this now. And you'd be surprised what it does, how the chain reactions get set off, right? Whether it's a chain reaction setting you up for great wealth, a chain reaction setting you up for love, or a new romantic situation, or a new family, or new spouse, or a chain reaction that unlocks a new talent or ability, mundane, physical, or spiritual. When the more that we do with our lessons and our limitations, the more we get out of life on earth. And in a funny way, that's really the purpose. That's really the only singular purpose we have, right? It's not about finding a life purpose in terms of finding the right career and paycheck, and that's going to be what God wanted for you. It's the point is to evolve. And it's through the lessons and limitations that we evolve as source, infinite creator experiencing itself within the limitations of itself.
Yes, you are an evolving, creating being. That is the trifecta of, you know, existence that serves you typically for the highest good. Uh, the diminished, unnecessary, limited forms of, oh, I got this job and I get the numbers on the screen and I need those numbers on the screen, or I can't get the thing, or I won't have the thing, or whatever it is. That stuff, that shows a need to seek out and recognize, identify those unnecessary limitations you're placing on yourself and others. And it could be anything. You could be limiting your experience by association to someone you don't need to be associated with. You
What
could be
would
limiting
you
your experience through engaging in some repetitive activity that just takes all your time. I mean, identify the unnecessary limitations so that you aren't further limited than you need to be.
we do have a problem on this planet where identification with one's limitations is normal and normalized. And again, this is universal. It doesn't matter what lens you want to put over it, it's there. How would you go about, assisting a person with maybe taking the limitations that they identify with, maybe that they even put up on a pedestal, or give themselves a context of an identity or a personality, or glean that from? How would you help them transcend that?
Well, do they want to transcend that?
Good question.
That's the first question. Okay. If there's no without motivation for change, the
Right.
likeliness for change that's beneficial is it becomes less likely.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need to ascertain their motivation for change. It's, if it's just woe is me, why is the universe turn its back on me and my life's a mess? Well, then you have to address that. You got to start there. So if it's about getting into okay limitations in terms of where it's hurting us in life and how we break through them and not have the unnecessary ones, I mean, you really need to point out where are you going wrong and how is this limiting you in a negative way. Okay? If you're waking up too early, you're not getting enough sleep. I'm throwing simple examples out there. Okay? Your energy is going to be limited that day. You need to make time to get that sleep. The Netflix goes off, the phone goes off, and you get that rest you need. Okay. It requires someone to be charged with being fully honest with themselves. If someone is fully honest with themselves, then the mistakes they make in terms of, adding unnecessary limitations and being unable to identify them, that can be addressed. But yeah, if that's not there, for you might as well not even bother. So again, is the will there? If the will is not there, you need to address the will. If the will is there, just break it down to ground level. What's not serving you right now? Oh, you're what? You're thinking about your belief about what? Yeah, that's a very limiting belief. We might want to consider how could that be different. It's again, you kind of got to play round robin with someone to get a feel for where they are in terms of their relationship to the divine and these topics we're talking about. Okay, the answer ultimately is it depends. Depends on the person, depends on the contributing factors that lead to that person to do or be whatever.
And
Okay,
there is no universal
there's no
imperative,
universal one. That's the thing. there
one size
is
fits
there is
all.
this drive to do a one size fit all in terms of personality and behavior and everything, and that's an admirable goal. you know Find commonalities and create usable frameworks to address some of these issues. The
You are
problem
the good
is,
cop
as you
between the
get
two.
narrow, as you narrow down to the individual, again, the individuated self of the limitlessness, the individuated self is utterly unique.
Yeah.
There is only one Nico. Only you have had your own experiences and observed and participated and created them in the way you did. No one else, nothing else. Only you. Um, and that applies to all of us. So yeah, if you're gonna address limitations, you have to go in clean slate. You can't project anything onto that person, or you're limiting the possibilities. You need to assess their motivation for change and address that as necessary. And you basically need to walk with them to identify the self-inhibiting behaviors. And again, it doesn't even have to be fully. It's not like, oh, I'm engaging in a ritual every day to summon darkness and my life sucks. No, it literally could be just a little bit of feng shui or something. It depends.
How do you handle sincerity when you're dealing with it? Because I mean, and I'm not talking about from a place of judgment, but we do live in a world that is very much still facing and confronting, maybe not necessarily in every circle constructively, but the dependence on a prescriptive life circumstance or a prescription for success. And sometimes when we talk about things like sincerity, that does come into question. Is a person serious about change? And how does that go to their core? When we talk about things like, okay, I sincerely want change, I want growth, I want transformation, is it because there's an incentive, a carrot at the end of the stick, or is it true? It's a tough topic to broach. I don't even know if I'm articulating it correctly, because people can sometimes, we can kind of get lost on the way to making a real change. If we're just looking for convenience, right? Yeah, give me the Game Genie code that they published in Nintendo Power. Why? Because do you want to change yourself, or do you want to change your circumstances? How would one navigate that? It's a very muddy place at the time of our recording.
Well, when you're basically, we're describing the subjective and objective conjoined natures of reality, things do get a little muddy. And that's okay, because as I perceive sincerity to me is the key to recognizing when someone is projecting a willful, conscious intent versus throwing out an idea.
Right.
Oh, I'd like to do that. I'd like to be this. What do you mean? You like to? That's the thought, idea, kind of a hypothesis? Or do you willfully seek to create X? Okay? Sincerity will highlight whether or not there's willful intent behind whatever is being presented. And if one is met with sincerity, in my book, I respond with appreciation to the nth degree, because this world needs a hell of a lot more sincerity. And if we can tap into sincerity, Nico, that the likeliness for the change to occur to the highest good becomes much more probable.
Yeah,
But
it does. I mean,
but I
and
think
and I,
that's actually a pretty good place to call it a night. Anything more
I
to
know,
add?
because I want to go on a diatribe about sincerity. Well, not a diatribe. You know me and my diatribes. But it's like, oh, that means we have to talk about sincerity. But
It
maybe
just
we'll just
means
have
that
to
the
come.
listeners are going to have to stay tuned for the sincerity episode.
Yeah, just gonna have to come back, in a week or so. I'll make a jot on my notepad, but I can't. When it comes to sincerity, we shall see. Well, yeah, how are we gonna make sincerity a topic? Because I mean, it's there, right? It has to be from the heart. It can't be, it can't be an idea. It has to be a feeling. So very
And it can
powerful.
always be a topic within a topic. Who knows, folks? We're not going to give you all. We're not going to give. You're going to have to deal with a little cliffhanger. You don't know what's coming next.
Yes, it's definitely time to uh, call it for the evening. But thank you for joining me
Thank
once
you,
again,
Nico. As
Ross.
always, stay peaceful, everybody. Looking forward to more episodes, and as you and I go through this process together, revelations seem to be abound. And when I look back on some of our conversations, I kind of look at myself. Did I just say that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure, I did.
Yes, you did. And so
And
did I.
it's the higher self saying hello.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we are going to bounce. I hope you guys all enjoyed this very much. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe, right? Engagement helps this channel and this platform grow. And if you are interested in sending more support, considering becoming a Patreon supporter or a YouTube channel member supporter, and it really helps us out a lot. So anyway, we're taking off now. Good night,
Bye
everyone.
now.